Genesis page 3. So I just kind of highlighted a lot of things that I thought were going to be important to understanding the character in these first few chapters. The struggles he goes through with his health, his treatment within his community, the things that are important to him, like drawing, and his friendships, his family, even though dysfunctional is very important to him. There's a lot of food insecurity and poverty, and stories in relation to that in these first few chapters. The comment, no, poverty only teaches you how to be poor. I really related to that, the teaching how to survive and not thrive. How outside of influences like family can really affect what you see and want for yourself. This is kind of talking about Rowdy and his father's alcoholism. So I just kind of highlighted some things there, really more like sections that I really want to just make sure I remembered the information about. There was a lot of insight on Rowdy in that chapter, and I kind of like that last sentence of Rowdy and I are inseparable. It felt like some foreshadowing to me, which definitely was. This section about his sister and how she stopped writing and throwing the textbook at his teacher and, giving him a bloody nose. I kind of just highlighted some general things on there. And I really, I dog-eared this page because it kind of talks about, his teacher telling him that they were supposed to kill the Indian to save the child and remove the culture, which we know to be historically correct. And I kind of just mused for quite a few chapters on that, just kind of dwelled on that, on how, these people were really tearing down these children, destroying their culture, their beliefs, trying to turn them into something they were not, and how can they expect them to thrive in that kind of environment. But also, was that the overall goal of the government, was to make sure that they don't thrive and they aren't successful. But then his teacher kind of instills some faith in him, and I feel like it's the catalyst to him changing schools. And the tone in the book kind of changes from self-loathing as the main concept to perseverance and fighting through struggles, even though he may have some self-doubt and self-esteem issues. And it was just really interesting to look at the social institutions and the influences that were causing him to have all these obstacles on his journey for education. So yeah. And then just a lot of him immersing himself into a predominantly white institution and understanding the social rules and things that change within classes, because he's not used to the type of life that people at Reardon live. And then I didn't really highlight a lot in this section. Kind of just felt a little bit like filler. And then after, I think this chapter here, actually, Thanksgiving, I felt like things started getting kind of more impactful and important. I really like this section where he says he woke up as an Indian on the res, somewhere on the road. He became something less. And then once he got to Reardon, he became even less than Indian. And I feel like it's really important to highlight those sections because just how he sees his school and his experience changes so much as we go through the book. A lot of comments on societal, social institutions and how they're affecting his education. Just how, even with all these obstacles, he's still fighting to, do better for himself and escape the res. His relationship with Gordy seems super insightful and profound for someone of his age, but a lot of sage advice. Let's see. I dog-eared this section. I want to build something beautiful. I want to be remembered. And kind of like how he has this ability to have empathy for people that don't have that same regard for him, and how he can really relate to them and their struggles, though they may be different. And then his commentary, when he was talking about Penelope and he tried to get that advice from Rowdy and then later Gordy, I thought it was really interesting. Gordy said, white girls are privileged, they're damsels in distress. I think that means you're just a racist like everyone else. There does seem to be this trend of minority men seeing being with or dating a white woman as a status symbol, or it gives them a sense of importance. So I thought that was interesting. Let's see. I can actually. There we go. And just like, that ideal, and it's prevalent in Black culture as well, that if you act, talk, enjoy certain things, it makes you white and kind of like you're a race traitor, I guess, essentially. So that was something I did relate to. And just again, more notes about all the struggles he's going through, all these obstacles, and how even though he keeps getting knocked down, he just continues to get back up. And that's why I highlighted I've never met anybody as committed as you that he got from his coach. Because I was thinking that throughout this, that there's a lot of perseverance in this story. And the antagonist from this kind of changes from the white community in Rearden to his community on the res, which I thought was interesting. And then this is kind of just like comparison of culture, his parents and how they relate to him and his family versus the white people that he is going to school with, and how they're so different. And then the passing of his grandmother, I dog-eared that, and how, they talk about forgiveness, and I think that's interesting, the concept of forgiving those who have done harm unto you or people you love, especially since you typically see that in like a religious setting. And just after that, he talks about forgiving and having love for the people in his community, even though all the things they've done to him, and how Rowdy's still his best friend, even though all the things that have happened between them, and just he's like a very forgiving person. And then the funeral, his grandmother's funeral, where the wealthy man comes with the dress. I just thought that was so comical, and it just made me laugh, so I decided to highlight that. And then this continued theme of alcoholism seems to get more and more prevalent as you get through the book. The murder of Eugene by his friend, and the role that alcohol plays in Native American lives. A narrative that, natives have alcoholism problems. And I also highlighted this excerpt. We Indians have lost everything. We lost our native man. We lost our language. We lost our songs and dances. We lost each other. We only know how to lose and be lost. And I felt like I really related to that. Being Black in America and, being the descendants of slaves, not knowing where your people originate from, your culture, things like that. Just felt a connection to that. And then I really liked in this section how he started making lists of things he loves, things that bring him joy, and how he pulled himself out of the hole and the depression he seemed to be in after his grandmother and Eugene's passing. This chapter was mostly about basketball, just more examples of perseverance, and that he has the grit to fight for the things he wants. And when he finally dunks on Rowdy, it felt like a really full circle moment. So I highlighted that. But then immediately after, once again, he has like this empathy and is able to understand people in situations that he might not be in. And through his victory, he's still able to recognize that though they may have won, he was in a place of privilege, and being and his teammates were in a place of privilege going against those on the res. So I thought that was very interesting. The passing of his sister, really sad. Once again, that theme of alcohol and how it's killing the Native community. So I highlighted all that stuff. Where he says, just brilliant things I thought just resonated with me. She baptized me with her pain, talking about his mother holding him and crying. I can't remember how to cry, and how he's had all this continuous loss and he's kind of desensitized to it. And then the hatred from Rowdy, and kind of understanding more about why he's reacting the way he is to him changing schools, and he felt like he was being left behind. And then this part, he was crying for his tribe too, crying because I knew 5 to 10 or 15 more Spokaneans would die during the next year, and most of them would die because of booze. Highlighted this theme of alcoholism and the killing of the Native American community again. Reservations were meant to be prisons. Indians are supposed to move on to reservations and die. We were supposed to disappear. And how, in despite of all of these things, he still pushed through and left the res and went on to better things. This is the reflection on that time at Turtle Lake and how Indians were nomadic and they aren't anymore, and how he's a true nomad. I highlighted that, kind of him and Rowdy having their little concluding moment before the end of the book.